Everybody loves dads, stories, and the Marine Corps. What could be better than Marine Corps dads who tell stories? Here's another story with veteran storyteller John Sugar Jr., a Marine Corps dad.
Tonight's story is the story of the Pengrinch. Da-na-na. Once upon a time, in the frozen wastes of Antarctica, there was a colony of owls who lived in the snow-swept wastes. And do you know what the owls called each other? Who? And so the owls lived in Whoville. But, wait, not there yet. And the owls loved Christmas. The whole Christmas season. A lot. And they would play with their toys. They would sing their songs. And they would eat rare roast beast. Exactly. It's more like mouses, though. Because owls like to eat mice. But everyone down in Whoville loved Christmas a lot, but the Pengrinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. He hated Christmas. The whole Christmas season. And he would look down on Whoville hating the Who's. And he would hear them saying, hoo, 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 hoo. And he would hate them even more. Because you know what Pengrinches say? They say, wah. Not who, wah. Who, wah. And the Pengrinch became angrier and angrier every year that he heard them celebrating Christmas. And then the Pengrinch got an idea. An awful idea. The Pengrinch got an awful, terrible idea. The Pengrinch decided to make himself a costume.
Of Santa Claus.
He put a big horn on his head. And a big red nose. And he looked in the mirror and said, I'm Rudolph. Ah. So when all the Who's were asleep in their beds, the Pengrinch came down from the mountain. He only did that for a little bit, because this will take a really long time, because penguins don't walk that great. You know what they do in Antarctica? They slide on their bellies. Okay? So the Pengrinch jumped onto his belly. And he went down the mountain. Down, but he had forgotten how to stop because he hadn't come down from the mountain for a while. So he went into a wall. So when the Pengrinch woke up, it was past midnight. And his own nose was now as big as the Rudolph nose. So he's like, that works. So he shook the concussion from his head and decided to sneak into the Who's houses and steal their toys. So he climbed up. Isn't that easy? Because penguins are flightless birds. And they only have little flippers.
And it was like,
So he's looking at the side of this house going, I didn't think this through. So he decided to do something else. He took some pebbles and slang it through the window. And when the people The Who's opened the door to see who was trying to break into their house. He sneaked in. Ninja Penguin Grinch. So the owls went back to their bed after they put up a garbage bag to cover the window that had been broken by the Pengrinch. And they all went to bed, and they started to go to sleep, and the Pengrinch was watching. And when they were at last asleep, he jumped out. He tried to walk through one of the doorways. But he was wearing big antlers. So he went... knocked him over on the ground. So he laid there for a little while making a snow penguin. Finally managed to get himself back onto his feet. Staggered over to the tree. And he looked at all these presents. That were all shaped like mice. And he could hear them. And he was like, "Where?" Because all the owls just gave each other mice for Christmas. You could hear from inside the box. And he's like, "Where?" So he picked up his little penguin foot on top of the box. And from inside he could hear. And the Pengrinch went, because he was going to crush the little singing mice. Because he hated Christmas so much. But as he picked up his foot, it was so cold in the house because all the snow and ice came in through the window that he broke, that it made the floor icy and slippery. So he picked up his foot, he was like, and hit the ground next to the box. Box goes skittering away in safety under the tree. The Pengrinch is like, trying to get up. And he's like, that didn't work. So he goes to the ice box for the Who feast. And he opens the door. And there's nothing in there. Because it was all in the boxes under the tree. He's like, and the last thing he goes to were the stockings all hung up in a row. Now, they're little tiny short stockings, because owls don't have very big feet. They're like little clawed things hanging there. He's like, just looking at it like, this is weird. He goes over to it and he's like, and he took all the owl stockings, and he took them all down. But then, right behind him, he heard something soft, like the coo of a dove. Ooh. And he turned around, and who was it? But little Cindy Lou Who. A little baby owl. Who was no more than 2. And she looked up at him, and he looked down at her, and she looked up at him. You know what she said? A robber! And the penguins went, wah! And all the owls came out of their beds, and they all had their claws, shing, because they were going to take this guy out. The penguins was like, wah! Wah! And they opened the door, and the penguin ran out. He was running. And he tried to run all the way up to Mount Crumpet, but all the Who's saw was this red light going up the mountain. And they were like, it's Rudolph! Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, Santa did come! And the Pengrinch got back in his cave, closed the door, and sat down. He was like, where? And then he heard, Dahu Doris, Dahu Doris. He's like, and threw pebbles at the door and began to dream about next year when he would try again. The end.
That was another story with John Sugar Jr., a Marine Corps dad. Check the show notes for links to his Patreon and website at creativegrumbles.com.